Hello.
Hi everyone. Welcome. It's Tuesday. We are recording for our Cravings, which was our episode we just had out this week. And we got a lot of feedback from you guys in terms of what you guys crave. And we're going to kind of break it down today into what those cravings really are meaning.
Cravings are really an interesting topic, and like we said, because we were going to make this episode originally about indulgences, and so we started sharing our indulgences with each other, and then we said, well, what about cravings? And what was interesting is that indulgences and cravings were two different things, right? So cravings, I think, maybe, I don't know, indulgences is like, it's bad, but you're just gonna kind of take a little bit, and you shouldn't do it very, like you don't do it very often. Yeah. But like, say somebody who does something often, like maybe somebody who can't handle caffeine, an indulgence would be having, a latte or a cup of coffee. Whereas for me, it was more a craving because it's like, well, I do that every day anyway. So
yeah, it's like the everyday versus the like celebratory once in a while thing. So it's like, we were saying about indulgences is like, that's a good thing. That's having, parties and celebrations and eating these like festive foods and drinking and things like that are part of having a healthy, balanced life. That's part of life. It's very important. So that's really, but when it turns into kind of the daily craving and you're craving that every day, that's when we want to look and say, okay, what is it then that the body is trying to tell us? Because it's missing something.
Yeah, and so I've taken this opportunity to experiment with myself. And like I said, like coffee is a big thing. I do that every single day. And so starting last week after Mardi Gras, I gave up coffee for a little while. And actually what I'm discovering is I have no problem being awake. My energy is fine. I didn't need my coffee, which it surprised me. I thought I was going to be freaking out from not having it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pleased with the results, and I'm not getting, sometimes that coffee gives me that high and low of energy, and I definitely seem to be feeling more steady Eddie with my energy.
That's
so
good. It's good.
I know.
And it's good. And it's so funny because we keep like joking about it. She's like, I swear I don't have an addiction, but I think I do. It's like going back and forth. And that's the whole thing. It's like, if you find that something, you're going to it every single day, like what about that is it? Is it the flavor that you're missing? Some people, like right now, we have dandelion root in our tea mugs, which is more of that bitter, like deeper, robust flavor, which is more similar to coffee. Some people do chicory, and chicory is also a medicinal herb. So is it that like bitter flavor and the warmth of the drink that you're looking for every morning? Or is it because of that caffeine stimulation? And if that's happening, right? So caffeine is an artificial stimulant, right? So yeah, it is gonna rev you up, but if you had nothing to begin with, and you're being revved up, now you're even more depleted. Then guess what? You make another cup of coffee and you're revving yourself up artificially and you're depleting yourself further. So instead of going and like, they've made a multi-trillion-dollar market out of caffeine and like 5-hour energy and all of these things because people are like, yeah, I need energy. That's not where you get energy from. Energy is from restoring the body, sleeping, feeding yourself properly, taking a break, right? That's when the body can reset and restore. And so then you actually have sustainable energy. Like Kara's seen now, it's more of this even keeled kind of energy. It's not the spiking.
Right? I'm really disappointed.
She might have had a problem. Yeah.
I'm still going to go back to my coffee because I really enjoy it, but I think I'll go back with a healthier relationship, and I look forward to that.
Where it's like your option and it's not a dependence, you know? It's not running your life.
So let's talk about some other cravings that people have talked to us about throughout the week. Which one do you want to go at next?
We could go with salty first. So it was kind of funny because I'm more of like, I get sweet cravings. I don't get as many of the savory type of cravings. I mean, I do, but it's more sweet. So it was kind of surprising to me when I saw so many people say that they were craving like salty and savory and all of these different things and fried food. And I'm like, oh, whoa. But salt's a really cool one because, we're transitioning. We're pretty much out of winter now. Like next week is the spring equinox. And again, like I've said a lot during the winter, in Chinese medicine, it's the season of the kidneys, and the kidneys crave and run off the flavor of salt. So salt is very important for the kidneys and for the whole body. Having too much or poor quality salt will throw it out of balance, and not having enough will also throw it out of balance. So it's very important that we have salt in our diet. So you could be craving salt just for the basis of needing salts. You don't want to cook without it. You want to cook with it. High quality sea salts, Himalayan salts, whatever you want. But what it's also usually showing, because you usually get those salt cravings in the afternoon. Most cravings kind of hit around that time anyway, but it's usually showing fatigue. It's indicating that there's fatigue. So like when my clients fill out a form with me and they write down that they crave salty, I know right away we're already going to start addressing the adrenal glands, the kidneys. We're already going to be dealing with some type of chronic fatigue. So that's what salt can also indicate, is that there's this fatigue, the kidneys and the adrenal glands need something, so they are craving salt.
You just defined me. There's also also from the Ayurvedic view, it's that the dry and the crunchy. So like that's something that I crave all the time, but that's the natural constitution of my body. And so it's like almost like I'm craving myself. Like I just want more. It's what I know and it's what I'm comfortable with. It's my comfort zone. So it's something that I always like to go to. And I think a lot of it, I mean, for me, because salty just means like snacky and crunchy, and I think it's a lot of boredom. Not to say my life's boring, but you know, it's the procrastination between, I'm working from home, so I can like use it as just something to fill, a filler, A
filler, yeah. And a lot of cravings really are. That's what they're doing, is they're filling a void. They could be trying to fill a nutritional void, or they're filling a emotional or kind of that level of a void. So again, there's nothing wrong with doing it, but if we're depending on that, we're not getting that sustainability that we're actually really looking for, that the body is really looking for. So crunchy, like you were saying, is a big one for you. And that, like the moving the mouth, that jaw, right? Again, in Chinese medicine, your gallbladder meridian runs through here, which relates with your liver. So that's like anger. So if you have any frustration, you're like clenching your jaw, or you just want to talk it out, right? Say something you couldn't say before. So like crunchy could be something.
Yeah, and maybe that's even it. Like if I'm home working by myself and I just need to talk.
Yeah.
Right?
You're talking.
It's like, so maybe I need more social engagement or something. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
I will address that.
Yeah. Something to think about. Well, and you had good tips in the episode too about like, maybe instead of the chips, you have like celery or cucumber, which I know isn't as exciting, but
yeah. And one of my favorite things to do to get my crunch fest out is make slaw, and we're gonna get into slaw. So just like cabbage salads. Whereas if I have this big Tupperware of it in the fridge, I can just grab it and take a bowl of that and just go at it. And so I have this mindless crunch thing going on, and I eat it till my jaw is tired, and then at the end I go, there's like no guilt. It's like all I did was just eat a whole bunch of vegetables, and it really does satisfy it. It's crazy.
Good.
So we'll definitely be sharing some slaw recipes this spring and summer.
And then another one is cheesy. That's really common. A lot of people are like, please, I just can't live without my cheese. I love it. And again, that's great. But first, always look for quality, right?
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Because I have an issue with cheese will stop me up, but my digestion. But if it's high quality cheese or softer cheeses, I do a lot better with it. Yes. So I'm pretty picky about when I do indulge.
And that's
in
a really good point. The difference between like a hard cheese, which would be like cheddars, anything in that family that are really hard, or then the soft, which would be like a goat cheese or a brie or something really soft. Those energetically are going to have two different reactions to the body. If you need to be stopped or bound up, having that cheddar cheese, those hard block cheese, Parmesan is another one, right? Those are going to be more of a concentrating thing for you to eat, and then the opposite is true with something soft, right? So that's a really good point about that. And then cheese as well, which we talked a little bit about in the episode, is it's from a mother, right? So it's from a mother cow usually, or a mother goat, and we all were fed either whether it was breast milk or whether it was formula, but held by the mother when we're having dairy, right, from the moment we were born. So we have this connection with dairy and comfort and safety and nourishment and just being filled full belly, and now you can fall asleep. So just understanding that relationship with cheese too. In addition, like we also mentioned in the episode, it has an opioid, so, and that's there so that the baby is addicted to the milk so that the baby survives. So that's there too. And I don't eat cheese very much because my husband really can't, but when I do have it in the house and I get some like really nice cheese, I'm so excited about it, and we have people over and then I'm left with the cheese, I'm like, oh, this is delicious, but like it's kind of dangerous. I'll have a piece of cheese or so every day, and I'm like craving it.
It builds.
Oh my God, it builds. It builds and builds. And then I'm like, I have to go get more cheese. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I don't normally have this addiction, but because I eat it every day, I gain this addiction to it.
And we're going to go all into dairy this spring, right? Yeah. We're going into dairy this spring. And there's so much interesting information about dairy.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
And then another one is creamy saucy, which could go along with cheesy, but the saucy factor.
And that to me is even like comfort food, right? So something like really home cooked, and the sauce and the
and rich and full and fatty and and that, you know, obviously it could go a lot along with nostalgia. Like, are you spending a lot of quality time with your family? If not, you might be missing that and wanting to have that comfort food. Or just time to chill and sit on the couch and just relax. It's a lot of it. Then the fatty and fried.
Oh, okay, yeah, we were talking about this, and you know, I think that sometimes you're craving that fat because you need the fat. A lot of us are fat deprived. You know, getting it in like a fried or like really meaty and not so, you know, like that's not the best way to do it. But that's so intense that I could see your body just like wanting to go after that, right? It's just like, give me that, like I need it. And that's okay, but like what if we just gave ourselves all sorts of healthy fat all the time, right, in a more subtle way, and like going for the grass-fed meat. I mean, I eat burgers. I'll crave a burger and I'll go for my grass-fed meat, make a beautiful burger, and it's so satisfying. But when we let it get out of control, we'll just be like ready to just shove it, right? So we're not talking fast food, burgers, and fat, right?
No, and also if you eat a lot of the fat, it could also weigh you down, right? So if people are eating lots of meats or lots of fast food and they're getting a lot of this, especially it's usually poor quality, they're gonna feel heavy and lethargic. And honestly, like Kara was saying before, you kind of like attracts like you kind of would be more attracted to it, even though it might not be the best thing for you. And what you might really need is a ton of vegetables and actually stay away from fat for a while, right? But sometimes we get so bogged down because there's extremes. There's there's the deprivation extreme, right? You're depleted, or there's the excessive. A lot of America tends to find themselves in excessive, and when you're in excessive, you crave the same thing. When you're depleted, you crave as well. So what we're trying to find here, always at Simply Seasonal, is balance, right?
And also something just to be aware of, and something we talked about, just observation and things we've talked heard about. Think about just after a night of drinking. So if you drink too much, that might lead you to crave these fatty. I mean, who doesn't want some greasy fries or a greasy breakfast in the morning if you overdo it with drinks? And, you know, so if you're still like that binge drinking person, that might be leading you into these fried foods. So pull back on both. And that
the alcohol correlation with the fat. Craving fat.
So it's probably your body just wanting to protect yourself from all that, the harshness of the alcohol, and coat yourself and break it down, right?
Yes, give it a padding. Yeah, and then there's sweet, which is what I go for. And that one, like, we'll talk a lot about that in the fall. In Chinese medicine, that's the season for sweet. It's the stomach, spleen, pancreas, right? So that makes a lot of sense with the pancreas, with insulin. You know, diabetics kind of deal with this because they've spiked it too much with artificial sweet, type 2 diabetes. And so that's created an insulin resistance. So sweet's always a hard one for them, right? They need it, but not too much, and definitely not too little. But that's kind of true for everyone. Like, we need it in our life, and we talked about it in our sweet episode. We need sweet, but when you're craving it, you know, I always tend to have a little bit of an imbalance there. So that's something I'm always looking for. Sweet brings in energy, which is chi. It brings in energy. But also it could extend further than just the physical body. You know, like, are you craving sweetness in life? Like that. See, now I don't want chocolate anymore. So, like, is there sweetness that you're craving in life that you're missing? And so you keep reaching for sweet foods. So, you know, it's different for every person. So just start asking yourself those questions and tapping into it. And the more you become aware of it, the more you can actually give your body what it needs, or your emotional body too, what it needs. And then you don't need to depend on these other things for it.
I love that.
Yeah. Chocolate?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that goes along with sweet.
That's like a topic on its own. Yeah, I mean, people say like, oh, maybe you're craving the magnesium, you need the magnesium, but you know, there's plenty of sources of magnesium, so don't use that as your excuse for like mowing down chocolate.
I used to use that one, and I was like, I don't think that's
maybe I'm magnesium deficient.
I don't really think that's
it's like, go eat some lettuce,
yeah. I just think it's like that bitter. It's kind of like a coffee, right? And when we talked about this too during our Valentine's Day episode, it's the same type of almost bean, that the coffee bean and the chocolate bean, they grow in the same area. They have that same bitter flavor. When roasted, they get really deep. They have that stimulation. So, you know, what part of that are you looking for? Is it the stimulation that you need? Like, Kara uses chocolate for that, to kind of like pick her up at the end of the day, but not too close to dinner. You know, I go for it for the sweet. Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely use that as my it's almost like a coffee break. And I have a little square of chocolate.
She's not addicted, don't worry.
Hi, Mary Beth. Thanks for saying hi.
Oh, hi, Mary Beth. Thank you. Oh, so good to see you. She's in Florida. Oh, awesome. Oh, hey, Jen. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. And then Chewy.
Your other friend is up there, too.
Oh, yeah?
Dingy King.
Dingy King. Oh, hey. Oh,
it's a boat person, so I figure you know him.
She's always joking. She's like, there's all these sailors following us. I'm like, yeah. That's what happens. Another craving, you know, because it could be flavors, but it could also be like textures, right? So we talked about crunchy. I love chewy, right? So like a chewy, like brownie is like,
okay, let's talk chocolate sweet.
Killer. Like, I love that, right? Or even like the banana bread that we have on as the recipe is so good. I made it last week. Oh my gosh.
It's so good.
It's so good, and it's chewy, and it's soft, and it's made with whole wheat flour, with just maple syrup, no refined sugar. It's an awesome way to get that craving in the healthiest way possible, with it still having the integrity and the deliciousness of usual.
And the difference between cooking that way, and I guess this isn't what this is about, but it's just less sharp sweet. right?
Yeah.
It's more of like a mellow sweet. It's still sweet, but more in like a mellow way and like an earthy way.
Yeah.
And then when you start eating that way, and then you get something made with refined sugar, like the banana, you go like, oh, like you taste, it's like a really sharp flavor.
You could like no longer eat something store-bought or whatever because you're like, ooh.
Which, you know, you guys, I look back to years ago, I would never think I would say this. I'd be like, no, that's not happening. But like, it just happens. It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and like, it totally is what we're talking about, because you're saying that sweet is like that, like this, right? So it's that balanced sweet. It's not the spiking, super intense, and then you come off of that and you crave more. You need not just one piece of cake, you need two, right? So it's more of that like
and with
balance.
the whole wheat flour, again, as opposed to white flour, it's again that balance because you have more of a whole grain, and because white flour, white sugar is going to go into your body, and it's already sugar when it goes. So the brown flour, you know, the whole wheat flour and these other natural sugars, your body has to work at that and process it, which is a good thing. You want your body to work. You don't want like a really nice car just sitting in the garage and not using it, right? You have to turn on the engine. So we want our body to work, and eventually it's going to break it down into that same sugar, but it makes our body work more for it, so we're more satisfied. Yeah, because we have something to do. We're giving our organs something to do.
Very true.
Instead of just shooting insulin out.
Yes, no, it's very true. That's where a lot of America is struggling. So yeah, and then alcohol, I think, is kind of the one that we're ending on, and feel free to add in any of your cravings, everyone who's logged on right now, and we can talk about that too. But alcohol is one, right? And so like, that's so common, and I love coming home to a glass of wine, opening a bottle of wine with my husband and cooking dinner and having a nice glass of wine. Or we were saying this weekend, Danny and I went out on our motorboat just to go for a little cruise, and we weren't drinking and stuff this weekend, and so we brought out like this little juice with us, and we were like, this just doesn't do it. Like, it's not a cocktail, right? And so of course there's the downside of drinking every day and having too much, right, and being in excess. But then there's also, alcohol is a little bit of a stimulant, right? There's something about it socially that allows you to relax.
Breaks down some barriers.
It breaks down barriers. So in all of these cravings, there is a healthy component to it, right? A healthy lifestyle component to it, sometimes physical. Of course, alcohol doesn't have anything physically good for you usually in it. But on that emotional level, alcohol kind of breaks down some of those difficulties, inhibitions, social barriers. So in moderation and everything like that, it can be a healthy part of life. So if you're craving alcohol all the time or during the day or whatever, just ask yourself, what is it? Sometimes, you know, you can come home and be like, I need to escape the day, right? I need a drink right now. Like, and you keep doing that over and over again, that's not healthy, right? Because you need to release, let it out, or change your job, or something's not going right in your life, right? Because it shouldn't be a dependence.
And there are healthier ways to drink cocktails. And this is actually something we're going to address in the spring. We're going to do some seasonal cocktails because, I mean, why not just take something and make it even better?
And make it really healthy.
A little bit medicinal.
So, yeah, absolutely. So healthy cocktails is an episode coming up. But yeah, so we kind of just went through a lot of the ones that you guys said you were craving. Hopefully that gave you a better idea maybe of where they're coming from, other than just saying, oh, I crave chocolate for magnesium. You know, there's a lot of different things that can go into that.
Try to go a little deeper. Oh, and one more thing is that, you know, you can train your body to crave certain things, right? So just by, we know in our mind, like maybe our stomach and our body isn't craving spinach or a green smoothie or whatever, but your mind knows that that's just logically something that that would be good for you. So what if you just started using your brain and going like, I have to use it like doctor's orders, and started eating a little bit healthier. And then all of a sudden your body goes, oh my gosh, this is how I feel after I eat this. And then what happens is you're training your body. So now your body's going to be like, hey, give me one of those smoothies, because I remember I feel this way after I drink it. And then you actually begin to crave it. And it's really a cool feeling where you're like, I just need beets. I just need a big bowl of greens. Like, get yourself to that point where your body knows that is craving something healthy, and you're going to feel so good.
I love that. I think that's such a cool thing. It's so true, you know, because it's just, you know, maybe you need to cut a little bit of this stuff out, but what really is important is what you're adding in. So you add it in, and then the body goes, oh, this is what I've been craving.
Yeah, it wants that reaction because it's like, I feel so good after you do that. Give me more of that, you know?
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good tip.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you everyone for logging on and watching. Always stay tuned because our St. Patrick's Day episode is coming out tomorrow. St. Patrick's Day is on Sunday, so it's really cool. Whenever we record these episodes, we always learn something new about whatever it is that we're talking, whatever subject it is. And we really found that St. Patrick's Day is the perfect end of winter holiday, and we talk all about that, all about, you know, how that's good for your health and how that relates. So yeah.
And today we start filming our spring episodes, so we're so excited to jump into spring and tackle some really fun topics.
Yeah, so awesome. All right, well, have a really great week, you guys.
Give us feedback. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, leave comments below all the time. We love hearing from you, and we'll answer all your questions.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.